This episode of Skirmish Supremacy is brought to you by Reformation Brewery, the official beer of your game night. Boom, we are recording now. So I suppose we should just go ahead and start this thing
good.
officially.
Maybe I'll hear every other word you say.
Is that what's popping through? Is every other word?
Just about.
Oh, what the hell here? How's that? How about that?
That part. I'd say it's your internet connection.
Are you on
I think
wireless?
it's better.
I'm on wireless, but my router is literally right there.
Yeah.
Well, what the crap? Okay, is it better now?
I
hear Blaze barking.
Yeah, he's barking at the painters.
Oh. All
or
right.
his shadow. Or something else.
Okay, so we're off to a positive start on this bad boy. Thank God for editing. So,
Funny.
all right. Nick, how am I sounding now? A little bit better?
Yeah, better.
Okay. I'm just going to fondle my microphone here for a second, see if that helps things. If you cup it and adjust the top. Did that do it? Did it take it to completion?
You sound good to
Well,
me.
whatever you just did just fucked it all up.
Whatever, we're doing it. All right, welcome back, folks, to another episode of Skirmish Supremacy. I believe tonight is episode 122, but we all know at this point that I cannot count. And as usual, our co-host, Nick, is over there saying that I have a jacked-up microphone on the computer, which might be right. I'll find out post-interview. And tonight we are joined by Tim Spakowski of Special Artisan Services Miniatures. Tim, how you doing tonight, man?
I am great. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. Nick, how are you doing over there? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I can right now. Let's see what happens in 5 minutes.
Professionally unprofessional. That's how it goes.
Just don't turn on the microwave and we'll lose your signal.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. So, for those of you not in the know, Tim actually runs his own company, Special Artisan Services Miniatures. He specializes in modern military figures. And we've got some exciting stuff coming out in the future. But, Tim, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you decided to get the company started, things of that nature.
Well, God, about 2 years ago, I decided to open up my own. Actually, 3 years, I started opening my own web store. And I've been a gamer since I was a little kid. So I saw things that I wanted made, that weren't produced. And it's from the modern perspective, I used to be a 20 millimeter gamer, and I have a ton of stuff in 20 millimeter, but 28 millimeter I prefer now. And so I thought, my God, the stuff I want, nobody makes. So I'm going to find a sculptor, and I've got some digital artists that I know, and let's start building stuff. And it just kind of snowballed from there. I started with the Contractor Benghazi range. And that was pretty successful, and it's still one of the good sellers today.
Nice. Okay. So really, you've only been around for a few years then.
Right. Yeah. As far as the miniature company, I would say really about a year and a half.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It feels a lot longer.
I was going to say it's amazing because you have managed to pump out an ungodly amount of things in that amount of time.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Well, when I set my mind to do something, I just go for it and do it. And I don't know. I guess I'm wired to do it that way, and I just move. My problem is I don't stop. And thankfully, I have a beautiful wife that will sit down and say, "No, it's time to take a break." So, yep.
That's amazing. My wife kind of does the same thing. She more along the lines just gives me a look.
Yes.
And I know.
Yeah.
and then it's time to turn everything off and go do something else. So that's usually how that works.
The thing is, I have just as a writer, when you get your creative juices going, you can't stop. And my problem is I'll have like 8 different projects going on at the same time. And then there's always, thankfully gamers that will come to me with ideas and go, oh crap, I never thought about that. Let's get it built. Let's do it. So
right.
It's been fun.
Yeah, definitely. Into that same writing thing, like I always carry around like a small pocket notebook because, even though we have these great things called cell phones, I never think to actually just go into the notes and type something. I'm always like, ooh, I need to write that down like a Luddite. But so I at least get my initial ideas jotted down that way. So at least that way I could say, okay, I'm going to revisit this later. Is this good or is this crap? That's usually step 2. Is this good? Is this crap?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
understood.
Nice. Yeah. So you started with the contractor Benghazi. Obviously you said you wanted to make the miniatures that you said you really wanted to see produced, but what was really the driving force to put out so many modern military lines? You and I have had conversations numerous times on the phone and offline about the fact there are a lot of companies doing modern, but you are approaching it very much like a broadsword, just hitting everything.
Well, I am approaching it from a U.S.-based miniature company. Mm-hmm. And like yourself, I'm here to represent the United States and provide miniatures to U.S. gamers. I mean, thankfully, I have customers all around the world. But as I said, I've been gaming for a long time, and the only way to get really cool stuff was overseas. And then you're spending tons of money on postage, not to mention the exchange rate for the pound sterling or whatever. So I thought, my God, why isn't someone doing that here? And believe me, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to say that there are no U.S. companies doing that today. I don't mean it that way. I just meant from my own perspective for modern gaming, I didn't see any. So I wanted to represent the United States and just like you said, do the broadsword because I have to, in a way, to establish a nice range. Nice range is. And because in modern gaming, there's so many different genres, especially if you start earlier 2000 or all the way up to ultra modern today. So you got to pick and choose and then just go for it.
Right. So you started with the Benghazi line. Where did you go from there?
Okay, so I went from Contractor Benghazi to Operator Juarez. And that was based on, CIA guys operating in Juarez, Mexico, and having some Mexican gangsters in there as well. So that was cool. And I thought that the CIA operators could function really well on a gaming table with the Contractor Benghazi figures. And they do. They're guys in plain clothes, carrying modern ARs and those kind of rifles, so they fit great. And I like that, especially with contractor experience that I have. It's nice to show that on the table as well and have modern vehicles and guys wearing 511s and chest rigs and stuff and just going. So I thought that was really cool. And then from there, gosh, I think it was the KSK. It may have been the KSK, and then French Foreign Legion, and then my first rendition of Spetsnaz, and then it just kind of snowballed from there.
Nice, and somewhere in there, you've also managed to pop out a ton of vehicles as well.
Right? Yeah. So I started the 3D business on FDM printers, and I thought, oh, this would be really cool, and I learned a lot from that. I still sell a lot of prints from FDM, but I do prefer the resin. And so that means I had to change the technology that I use for that. But yes, I like producing vehicles. They are a lot of work. They are definitely a lot of work. When you see something that I produce, say like the Dumb-V that I have, the Special Forces Dumb-V, that probably was a 3 or 4 month project. And then the SOCR, the Special Operators Riverine Craft, from everything from getting the boat made and the weapons created and the guys sculpted, that was probably a 1.5-year project. So, yeah, and it's a lot of work, but I think they're awesome. And, I definitely wanted to give that to the gamers as well, because nobody makes it in 28 millimeter, not that I'm aware of.
Right. So you're definitely, wanting to hit everything 28 millimeters. So as far as games right now that are using 28 millimeter miniatures and everything, there are only a few. Is there any in particular that you are catering your line towards, or are you just approaching it from like, I just want to make these figures?
At first, my goal was just to have rule agnostic figures.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I hear people say, well, you've got these figures. Well, what rules can I use them with? Or how can I use them? And I ask myself, are they lacking imagination? They've got a figure that they can throw in any type of rule system, really, and then use them. You don't have to have a set of rules specifically created for these figures. However, as my experience has increased in this game, so has my need and will to have a set of rules. I have been approached many times by different rule companies. I myself was wanting to write my own set of rules, but I just didn't have the energy. And then this guy named Tim came to me and says, "Hey, I got this idea. I'm doing this game called Fire at Will." And that changed my direction. So that's the set of rules that I'm catering my miniatures to and the vehicles for. And I'm very excited about that.
Terrible choice.
Yeah. So, well, you know what? I have second thoughts.
Business suicide.
Nick's been talking to me offline, and but the idea though is, I have different ranges coming out. I have at least 3 still coming out at the end of this year. Once I take a breath and take a break, then it will be you and I taking a look at, okay, what areas do we want to create, and then just gearing figures for that. And then those figures and the vehicles will have stats, and it'll just be perfect. It's awesome. And it's a U.S. product.
Yeah, and that's something that with this, well, since the cat's out of the bag, folks, yes, I'm actually working on another title called Fire at Will. It is modern military gaming. It could be anything from small skirmish, cops and robbers, all the way up to like mass battle. And then Nick is actually helping me work on some stuff for, I guess you want to call it a 10 years from now style war, like more of a Ghost Recon Future Soldier. So it takes place. Nick, why don't you go ahead and say it, because you do it so much better.
What, my Sino-Kiwi war?
Yes.
I just love how the two sound together. But I in addition to some SASM miniatures, I also picked up some Empress miniatures, and I picked up the Australians because I was just like, I just want Australians. I don't know why I want Australians. Mm-hmm. And then I also decided to buy the PLA, and then I was like, now they're going to have a war. I was, and just randomly one day, Tim's been working on Fire at Will. We've play tested it a few times, and one day I was just kind of, sitting there chomping away and wrote this like whole backstory. And Tim was like, "So I'm thinking all this stuff," and I'm like, "Oh, here you go." It's almost identical to what I just wrote.
Yeah, pretty much. And, the only thing I said at that point is let's put a twist on it, and we're going to make it like more of a near future Ghost Recon feel, because that's also going to be like a small side supplement for the game, along with Vietnam, which is basically cutting weapons out.
Yeah. So, well, yes. Yeah, we definitely need to talk more about that, because I have my own ideas as well of what I want to produce. And yeah, and I'm up for all of it. So, and I like the fact that the modern Chinese, those guys, they are in Syria, they are in Afghanistan, they're operating in parts of Africa, and they're not really represented well on the gaming table, because a lot of it just unknown. We have some ideas, but definitely I think that would be cool to have more Chinese, especially there's the special forces and stuff like that in their vehicles. So, and plus it'll be easy for me since they ripped off the Hummer designs. I'll just create a Chinese Hummer.
I mean, that's
just call it the rip-off Hummer. You're good.
That's right. Yeah.
That's like 90% of their military. You just look at something that someone else made, and
right. Yeah. Right.
So as far as that goes, I guess let's military geek out a little bit just for a second. So for folks listening at home, you might have to look some of this stuff up. But are they still using the Type 88 as their standard rifle?
I honestly don't know. I don't know. I believe so, but I don't know. It's been a while since I've actually looked at their stuff. I don't. Nick, do you have any idea?
I think the guys that I got had the Type 88s.
Yeah, because that was the older ones, but I just don't know what they're using today. Maybe do some Google Foo and find out real quick.
Yeah, we might have to do that. But
pardon the pun.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's one of those things you said it, and I'm like, I'm just going to let it slide. But
yeah, sorry.
No, it's definitely one of those things. Like I remember just
Type 81.
Type 81. Okay, cool. So it is, and is the Type 88 then the smaller? I mean, they're all bullpup, but is that the smaller, like submachine gun?
I'm looking at their stuff. It doesn't have it listed under submachine gun.
Okay.
Type 88. It's classified as an assault rifle.
Okay, so they're using the Type 81. Type 88. Okay. So either way, so for those of you listening, now that you're kind of getting the picture of what's going on, the way that the Chinese do their guns is there's a type followed by a number. They don't have like any other name for it. So even their submachine guns are a type. I don't even remember some of them at this point. I think they're like type 9. There's a couple others.
Type 85, Type 82.
Yeah.
Type 79. Type 64,
right,
and then some others.
So unless you're really good at knowing what number's what, then you're not going to know what the hell the gun is. It's kind of like Glock. Unless you know what the Glock numbers represent, then you're not really going to know.
And looking at this, it actually says the QBZ-95 is the standard service rifle now.
Oh, okay.
The Type 81, actually, it's an older rifle, but it's the Reserve Forces rifle.
Oh, okay. Well, good to know.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, and I know, Tim, that's one thing that you focus on when you are working on new sculpts, be it vehicle or civilian or military, is that you really deep dive into what kind of gear do they carry? How do these guns look? Are they going to be, obviously there's sometimes scaling creativity that has to be done for a miniature, but you go out of your way to make sure that the guns look as accurate as possible.
I do my best. And for every rifle that I have on a figure, there's probably been at least 5 or 6 renditions of that rifle because, you get it digitally sculpted and then you print it out and oh my God, the barrel's not thick enough or whatever. So you're constantly changing. And there is that economy of scale. You want it to look really cool, but there's also how much can you put in the scale that we have for the table,
right?
As well as are people's fingers going to flick, sights off and flashlights and stuff like that. So that's always a challenge. But I do my best. But you know what? There's times I'll look at a product that I've released and go, "GD, I cannot believe I forgot that, or I can't believe I left that thing out." So I luckily have some good partners that help me out that have my sanity checks because I need them. I do, yeah. Especially
nice.
When I'm researching right now. I'm researching 3. Well, I've got 3 projects going on, and they're all 3 different parts of the war, from the beginning of the war to current day. So going back and forth, especially with the car rifles and the different modifications and what kind of grenade launchers were used on them in early war versus not. Yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge.
All right. So are you able to talk about that a little bit more, or is that something that you kind of want to keep tucked under wraps for a little bit longer?
Well, I released some pictures of the Tora Bora range, and to me, that was one of my favorite periods of the early part of the War on Terror. Let's just call it that. I remember just being glued to the internet and the news, and when they had the gunfights at the prison, and you see the SAS, SBS guys running around in either blue jeans or just regular khakis, and then all the way up through to the Tora Bora campaign. So I wanted to have those figures made. So they're special operators that are representing, Green Berets, Delta, SAS, SBS, and they're wearing civilian style clothes, and I'm doing my best to get the right rifles and the right machine guns and all that sorts of stuff. So that's definitely that range. And then probably not this year, but beginning of next year, then I'll have my own Taliban range to go with it as well.
Okay, nice. Because I know that's always something that people either jump in whole hog or, they tend to shy away from for some reason, and to me, it's representing nationalities.
You have to, in the very beginning, I thought, I don't want to waste my energy making insurgents because there's other companies that have. But I thought, well, guys already have them. They're not going to spend more money on insurgents. But my God, no, that's the complete opposite. People want more. So that's okay. Then I'll do more. So that's one of the reasons why I did Boko Haram figures. Those guys can be used for any type of Islamic African factions. I'm very happy with my ISIS guys that have been released. My goal is to have them casted and start sending out in September. So I had to do that, especially when we talked about getting together with the rules. I had to show both the operators as well as insurgents on the table represented by SASM. So it was
right. Oh, 100%.
Made sense. Right.
Yeah. So I guess touching a little bit about some of the stuff you're working on. I know you've kind of you actually, what did you just put out? I think it was the Spetsnaz that you just put out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So it started out as a 12-man unit, and then it quickly grew to 12. Those Spetsnaz are modeled after the Spetsnaz in Syria. And I initially had a set of Spetsnaz that came out, and they're good, but I wanted to do better. And so that's why I thought, okay, now's a great opportunity to do something better and above and beyond what was done before. So that meant months of getting weapons done, different weapons, and researching all the different weapons, and researching the uniforms and the web gear and all that sorts of stuff. So that was a project, and those will get casted tomorrow. So
nice.
My goal is to have metal figures in hand Friday, if not Friday, Monday. So, yep, and nice. They're really cool. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead and finish your thought, and then I'll say what I was going to say.
The greens that I have them printed in, they look amazing, and they're better than the seals that I produced several months ago. The seals are awesome figures. They're awesome figures, but these Spetsnaz are so much better.
Yeah, the thing that I really appreciate about it is the fact that you showed the fact that Spetsnaz have a way of using their rifles very unconventionally. So for those of you out there, I don't know if you've ever watched anything modern military, but for the modern military buffs, you'll find that Spetsnaz are known for acrobatics with an assault rifle is the best way for me to put it. These guys train to shoot on their backs while rolling, while sliding on the ground like a John Woo movie, crouching, leaning around a corner, and then into a tuck and roll. And yeah, it's the only way that I can put it. It's acrobatics with an assault rifle minus backflipping.
Right.
It's not quite that insane, but they still get pretty intense with it.
Yeah. And, I wanted to focus on the Syria conflict because that is a perfect opportunity from a gaming perspective, politics aside, from a gaming perspective, to have many different nationalities on the table at once.
Yeah.
And you could have really some high stressful scenarios going on there where you've got U.S. Special Forces, Russian Special Forces, Russian contractors, U.S. contractors. I mean, you've got a potential for a really cool scenario. So, Syria. After the Ukraine, I studied the Ukraine. I thought that was very interesting and exciting as well. But I thought, my God, Syria needs to be done. So, and I've got heavy support weapons coming out in a month or two. I already have a couple of them created already. I just haven't released it yet.
Yeah. Well, how big is your team right now?
Well, I have 4 digital sculptors and 1 traditional sculptor.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And then, of course, yourself managing.
And then myself. Yeah. Yep.
So that is also part of the big secret as to why he's able to crack things out so quickly. But at the same time, I mean, it can be rough when you're, a small 5-man team trying to get all this done and, get it. Well, right. I've always said that working in the industry is a lot like managing and learning how to herd cats, because there's always the ooh shiny.
Yes. Well, yeah, exactly. And
I think that's what this whole episode has been. Ooh, shiny! I'm gonna do that now.
Right. Well, welcome to my world down. That's just how I operate. But yeah, so I am managing at any one time. Well, actually, 6 guys. So I'm managing those guys and those different projects with it. So it's a challenge. Plus painting figures. Plus getting the orders put out and all that sort of stuff. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it can be quite a bit.
Yeah.
But so as far as everything that you're doing, obviously you're sculpting everything modern, and you and I are talking with Fire at Will and all that. And Nick's, he's working on some of the stuff for Sino Kiwi, and we're going to touch base upon getting it more Ghost Recon-y, for lack of better terms. That's the only thing I've been able to come up with as far as like how far in the future I want to go. Ghost Recon. Okay, good.
Right.
So
right.
But what else are you currently playing as far as games go?
Games. My own gaming, aside from modern stuff?
Yes. Aside from modern, when you say, I need to take a break from all of this, what do you play?
British colonials. 28mm British colonials. So that could be Sudan. That could be Zulu. That's one of my hearts. I love that period. But I also play Napoleonics. I play American Civil War. We play Congo. That's a great set of rules. And what's great about Congo is we can use a lot of the British colonial figures that we have already, and we just throw it in there. Saga and Bolt Action. So
so definitely on the history side. I haven't heard anything in there that's over the top crazy.
No, well, I was 15 and a half when Rogue Trader came out. So I definitely was there when it started. And I used to play 40K, loved it. But as I got older, I don't know. I didn't care for the set of rules for 40K, and I'm sure it's changed. But I had an epiphany one time when I spent all this time painting these blood angels, beautiful blood angels, to then them get decimated on the first turn with a pie plate of damage that just landed, and then all those guys are gone. I'm like, why am I doing this? This is the most ridiculous thing ever. So, I have never played Infinity. Infinity looks cool, but my heart is really into the more modern or historical gaming. I love fantasy. I've got fantasy armies. There's rumors that they're bringing back 3rd edition-ish. That would be great. Love it.
All right. Nice. So you mentioned Saga. I know Nick has been playing a ton of Saga. I've got a bunch of Saga on my desk, but I have not touched 2nd edition yet. Are you still playing 1st or 2nd edition?
1st edition, because we don't play any tournaments. So for us, it's like, why get the new books and stuff? I know that, the eye candy and stuff, but there's no reason for us to. I stay out of tournament play. I don't like playing in tournaments, so there's no reason for us to switch. When they first came out, I read about some of the grumblings regarding the movement changes in Saga 2. Other than that, I don't know much about it. My head's been really down in the company, and thankfully, I have a good support group of gamers here that provide a lot of gaming for me, so I can get my mind off the company.
I have definitely seen you set up a Zulu board or two. In some of those pictures. Because you actually, one of the other things that you make is some terrain for that time period, don't you?
Well, the terrain that you see on those pictures from the Zulu, I cannot take credit for. Those are from. Well, there's some terrain I do make. Yes, there's like. Go ahead.
I was going to say the one that I'm thinking of. I thought you actually did make it. I thought I'd seen it on your website, and then I actually saw it in the table, and I had a hard time not buying it.
Is it the tower? The tower and the.
That's what I'm going and looking for now.
Yeah, I do make that.
So. Okay, it's like the blockhouse was one of the ones I saw.
Yeah, right.
That you make. I don't. Yeah, probably some of the towers. Yeah,
the towers I do make. I thought you were referring to my Zulu Isinwana or Rorik's Drift games. Those were from Warlord, their Rorik's Drift set, and I did scratch build some things on that table. But no, yes, you're right. I do produce some stuff for Boer War colonial period. And I also do produce buildings. And you're going to see in a couple weeks some MDF stuff come out.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the idea is that a lot of that terrain was produced in 3D, and I would print them, but it takes forever for me to print stuff out. So that's when I sought a company that can produce a lot of MDF very fast. And so that should be coming out in a couple weeks. Nice.
So you're getting into the MDF game as well.
I have to, because I have all this terrain. I have city blocks full of terrain that's been digitally created and sculpted. I just don't have the means currently to produce them fast enough. I looked at getting into MDF and laser cutting, but that was a whole other technology. And from my understanding, the price point for a good laser is about $5,000 to $6,000. And at the time, I'd rather sink more money into other things for the business than a laser cutter. Let those guys who are really good at what they do with MDF cutting, let them take it from there for me.
Here's my stuff. Cut it. You get your cut. I get mine.
Right. Yeah.
That's a good way of looking at it.
I love terrain. I blame Mr. Rogers. I grew up with Mr. Rogers, and
damn it, Mr. Rogers.
From the very beginning of the show with the street scenes, and then him going into his kitchen and he putting out buildings onto his kitchen table. I've always just loved villages. I've always loved buildings. So, Nick, did I cut you off? Were you going to say something?
Oh, no, not really. I mean, I was just going to comment on some of the stuff you have, because you have like the CIA compound and the Afghan compound, and those are really great.
So the CIA compound is getting produced in MDF as we speak.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because that's
price point.
Sweet. You can ask Tim. I'm a very big terrain guy. Like,
yes,
I have an issue not playing on the right terrain for whatever the game is.
Yeah.
It bothers me a lot.
Yeah. Well, I have villages that were modeled from Syria, and that will be produced in MDF. I've got buildings from Aleppo that will be produced in MDF. So there's a lot of stuff coming. I'm a terrain guy, and when I was 15. A gaming store moved within walking distance from my mom's house. And in that same mall, the inner part of that mall, was a company called VLS, Verlinden Letterman Stock. And Verlinden Hobbies is still today really big in 1/35 scale, 54 millimeter military modeling. Well, there was a guy named Bob Letterman who is a master modeler. He built huge dioramas. You can Google his name, Bob Letterman. You can Google the Legends. That's one of his big dioramas he did in France. Well, all of that stuff, including Bob, was in that store. So I would go up to, and that VLS was the distributor. So I would go up to their distributor and just stare at all the dioramas that were there. And my imagination oh my God, I was a kid in a candy store. So I know I'm rambling. Sorry.
No. That's totally fine. we do it all the time on the podcast. But
and it's rambling about terrain.
Yeah, exactly.
And terrain is awesome.
Yes.
That is why I spent lots of money on Gravelcast to build an entire forest of just mushrooms.
Oh, okay.
The giant fantasy mushroom forest. Yes,
it is for Relic Blade and almost exclusively for just that game. You can ask Tim. My going on almost 2 years now. I've had a lot of blood and plunder. It's in various phases of being painted, but you know what? I've got a shitload of terrain for it, and that looks amazing.
The terrain is painted. Pirates, not so much.
Who cares? They're gonna die in a minute anyways. The terrain is gonna be here the whole time.
That's right. You're right. One of my favorites is doing a cowboy town. I have my gaming table in my basement is a 6x12, so I have my whole cowboy town stretching from end to end, and the majority of them are foreground buildings. And I mean, I love it. It's cool.
That has to be awesome because foreground makes a lot of really good Western buildings, and actually we've seen a lot of them because we're good friends with Benson Green, who has Exiles, which is a Wild West, and so
zany Wild West.
Zany Wild West. So he has lots and lots of terrain. And actually, he recently got into Infinity, and at one point we were talking to him, and he said that he had branched out and got some terrain for Infinity. And I looked at him and I went, "Why didn't you choose Ariadna? Then you could have totally used all your Wild West stuff." And he's like, "Oh, holy shit, I really could have."
Yeah, right.
That's amazing.
But
so, it's terrain is definitely one of those things that, Nick has gone crazy on it. I know a lot of people that have gone crazy on it, but like for me, it also it helps to represent what you're playing. Like that's, to me, is the biggest thing. And that was one of the things that even photo shoots and books and whatnot, like I just finished Ragnarok, and we were really particular about trying to get the terrain done for that. Fire at Will, just because it's modern. The setups have to look convincing. It doesn't matter what segment we're doing it for, especially because it's modern, right? Like there's how many photos online. If it does not look right, people just aren't gonna. They're not gonna take it as seriously.
Yep, you're absolutely correct. You got to do it right. And what I geek out is all the little parts that you can throw on the table to make things look real. Rubble and trash cans and what do you have there, Nick?
I have a red barn right here.
Cool.
It came in the mail today, and actually it's from Blacksite Studios, and they put out a barn a while back in the set, and I kept bugging them on when they were going to put out the kit for it. And they finally put it up, and then I said something because it was a brown barn, and I said something about having to paint it to make it look like an Americana, classic red barn. And they messaged me and said, "Do you want it in red?" And I said yes, and I have a red barn in my hands. And I got home from work and it was sitting there, and I quickly ate, opened the package, and came down here to do the podcast. So I've been staring at it, smelling the fresh MDF cut smell.
Right. Now they just came out with a new bank, which I got to get. Their bank is really cool.
That's on its way. I mean, they got to finish cutting it. Yeah. I got all of those. I may or may not have had a talking to from the wife after she saw that purchase.
Yeah.
But I mean, a church, a bank, police station. There's one other building that I suddenly forgot about. But yeah, no, they're all great, and they're pre-painted, which is really awesome because it's a really nice paint quality and detail. They have lots of attention to detail, especially that bank, because they even have plastic plates that will go around the bank that come with it.
That's cool.
in planters and all that stuff.
Nice. Yeah. So Nick is quite invested in the terrain. So we're good on that whenever we start doing photo shoots on our side of things too. But I know that right now, like, you've got a ton of stuff you're cracking out. Like, not that I want to go back to talking more about Fire at Will, because I can't say too much just yet. But one of the things that I just demoed it this last or 2 weekends ago at Gen Con. It actually went really, really well. This time we actually got a chance to use some of the stealth rules, and they went well. They went about as well as expected until people started launching grenade launchers, and then it's kind of stealth went right the hell out the window. But they did the stealth up to the point they didn't have to be stealthy anymore, which I was like, okay, perfect. So this is working. But one of the things I definitely wanted to do is I wanted to scale up to that ability to, start doing like, hey, I've got an Apache, you've got an Abrams. Let's see who's going to win this gunfight. So, I'm definitely excited to see some of the vehicles come out and really crack down on like working on the vehicles rules to make sure that, as you're designing stuff that it makes sense. And again, being modern, you have to pay attention to detail as to how you do it, but you also don't want to bog it down in the minutia of rules. One of the things I know you and I talked about, Tim, quite frequently, and Nick, I know you and I have as well, is like, for the most part nowadays, just because like military training is so standardized, like Israel, the United States, and any country that's part of the UN for the most part, they all train the same way with mostly the same weapons platforms. There's always tweaks to how it's done, but it's one of those things to where there's such a minute tweak that for the purposes of rules in a game, it probably doesn't make sense to try to deviate too much from that.
Right.
And it's the same thing. Like, again, like one of the things I was talking about is like, the difference between like, the 7.62 and the 5.56 round is, for all intents and purposes on a tabletop, no reason to separate the two. So it's just, that's a typical assault rifle round.
No. Yeah, I completely agree. Let's keep it simple enough. You still have the feel of what's going on, because when you're there and bullets are coming right past you and you can hear them whiz, it doesn't matter what caliber they are. They're coming after you. So, unless, they're going behind center blocks. But, let's just standardize it. Yes, there's a group of guys that want to really geek out and have, okay, this special weapon, this 308, this M4, all these different things. That's awesome. But a lot of guys don't want that anymore. They just want that feel. They want the dynamics of the Ghost Recon-ish type stuff. They want to play out the movies. They want to play out 13 Hours. They want to play out Sicario. And you can do that without having to worry about the caliber of each round.
Right.
Not necessary. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I was really, trying to focus on with that. Now, obviously, that changes when we start getting into cannons. But then again, really, the cannon is just like, well, I shot you, and I killed you, and the three people next to you, and that car you're hiding behind is now gone.
Right. Yes.
So, there's a big difference, but it's still the same thing. I shot you.
Right. Yep. No, I am too. I'm interested, especially because, with the conflict in the Ukraine, you have the ability to, on the tabletop, to have modern armor battles. Don't have to be huge, but you do have the opportunity to have modern armor battles. So that I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
And Nick, I know that you got a chance to. Well, you played the first mess of the breach rules that I had. They're actually coming up now.
Actually, as you were talking about it, and hoping to have vehicles down and all that, all I could think of is my fortress up on the hill and that roadway that I just kept filling with armored vehicles that kept trying to breach, and my little untrained wild crazy upstarts just kept shooting rockets down there and just annihilating them. I mean, it was crazy good rolls. So, no matter what, it did come down to the rolls, but we could kind of tell there was something wrong when even vehicles that were supposed to have an ability to withstand at least one RPG round, just were flipping end over end and just, blocking the way up.
Well, that's the value of playtesting.
Yes. It works much better now, but I still remember the fact that Nick, with his untrained Somali insurgents, managed to garrison himself an entire town because he blocked the one roadway in by parking a hippie bus across it sideways.
Oh,
and then, you had this one road up in, so I had that hippie bus there, and then somehow I got another vehicle that also then had a cannon on it. You just had a technical with a 50 cal on the back. Yeah, that thing was awesome because it sat like right at the little edge that the hippie van left open and just kept laying waste to any people that were down there. And then the rest of my guys were on the rooftops around it, just shooting endless streams of rockets.
Wow.
It was pretty great because for some reason, Nick was the only one that caught on at first to the fact that like things can be destroyed. So people just kept like marching troops up this hill right at this hippie bus, which he's just gunning them down with a 50 cal. And then finally they're like, oh, that's right, we can destroy things. So then they just start leveling the town that he's in. Just because they're like, whatever, we're done with him.
Well, and then finally somebody got a Chinook, and then that's when my dice went south. I couldn't hit that Chinook worth a damn. And so all of a sudden, all the special forces guys that I'd been murdering down at the foot dropped right into the middle of the town. And then the untrained Somalis didn't know what to do.
Then it went downhill from there.
Right.
So, but yes, the rules as far as the breach ratings on vehicles have been cleaned up. So I got a chance to test out the stealth rules, like I said, at Gen Con. I had people look at it, really criticize it, try to rip it apart. I got a couple other tweaks I'm doing to it but I'm going to call the stealth rules 85% done. So there, as far as that goes, like the game's coming along beautifully.
Cool. Awesome.
So,
I look forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. It's I'm excited to hopefully sometime in the near future here announce who's going to be publishing it. I can't do that yet. Those of you who I know are going to be listening, you know who you are. Please let me know when I can say something because there's a lot of people excited. But it's something I'm really looking forward to getting into, just because of the fact that, like you said, a US based modern military company is something that like I'm taking a lot of pride in. I want to use all US casters. I want to use all US, terrain makers. It's going to be produced here in the United States. So yeah, just an homage to, our troops here. So.
Yep. Definitely. And I'm always for helping out veterans, people who are serving. And, if you guys have ideas, things that are in the field today that you don't see on the table, my God, message us and we'll do our best to see what we can do to get stuff produced.
Yeah, definitely. So you've got the Spetsnaz that you're casting tomorrow, so you should have the medals tomorrow.
Yeah.
What do you have coming out shortly after that?
Tora Bora.
Okay.
Is let me stop for a second and think what the heck's going on here. There is a new French Foreign Legion that's slowly being done as well.
Okay.
And then I have to finish the horse soldiers. I did a couple horse soldiers from Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. And I have some other stuff that I'm still doing research for. So I don't want to say now because I'm sure there's gnomes about listening. So
right. Yeah, I get you.
Yes. Yep.
Some ghosts, if you will. But the point of it is you got a lot of stuff you're working on. Now, one thing I did want to ask, going back to the Foreign Legion, are they still using the FAMAS?
So when I did my first line of the Foreign Legion, one of the units that I based it off on, most of them had SCARs and HK-416s. So that's what I had them sculpted as. Everybody wants FAMASs.
So I know that it's been like the iconic gun of the Foreign Legion for a long time, and I know it was one of those things they were really like diehard adamant. We do not get rid of this thing, but I'm like, yeah, but it's not that great.
So they are still using them. Their special forces unit, the Foreign Legion, are using 416s and squad automatic weapons. But the new Legion that's going to be coming out will have the FAMASs.
Okay. So by new, you're retrofitting them with the older gun.
You're absolutely correct. Yes.
Just new arms.
Yeah. Just plug them back in. Just new arms. Done.
Yeah. But there's other stuff being worked on right now. I just don't want to really say too much.
Sure.
I'd rather not.
Yeah, I totally get you. It's totally fine. You know, you always gotta keep some of your cards close to your chest. We get it.
Yes. Yeah, I do.
But awesome, man. Yeah. So it's it's definitely been fun seeing the process about this. I actually first heard of your company when Nick showed me the little bird at his house.
Oh, cool.
So I was like, holy shit, somebody's actually doing this.
Well, because you know what? No one else did. And when, years ago, there was a group of guys here that were gaming moderns, and they were using Britannia and the Assault Group. I mean, this was years ago. And I thought, I got to do a little bird from Black Hawk Down. Nobody made it. So I had to get a couple models. I forget who made the models. And build my own benches, and then take Britannia Delta Force guys and cut them up so I can have bench riders and have mounts. That was quite a project, but that was one of the first things I did from a big resin perspective was the little bird, and it's an awesome kit. It's a good seller.
Yeah, it is awesome. I have to admit, I still haven't painted it. I keep looking at it going, I need to paint you. But I do love it. Now the only thing I want to do is, be able to either put on the benches or put on gun mounts.
So I have an attack bird modeled in 3D. That is a proper mount with Gatling guns and rockets. I just haven't. It's on the list.
I mean, so really, I would think that you should be able to, I don't know, quickly like part out the kit a little bit. I mean, I guess you would have to redo the hull of it.
The hull, well, the main, you know what? That's an idea, because I could always do retro stuff. Kind of thing of it, yeah. Because the center hull inside there is a let's just call it a box with belts for feeding the miniguns.
Right.
But the benches are different because they actually have rocket pods underneath and the mounts for those. But that might be a quicker way for me to do that. So thanks.
Just
for
make
that.
a quick plug-in.
Yeah, quick plug-in.
Yeah.
That'd be a lot easier for casting purposes too. Holy crap! Yep, that's a good idea. Thank you.
Nick's helping.
You're welcome.
Yes, that's right. This is the Nick model attack little bird. But to that though, one of the things that is coming out for the little bird are new bench riders and dismounts. So they'll be able to work with the seals that I've put out, and then there's other to shore up those lines. There's other figures coming out to support the seals, medics, snipers. The guys want kneeling and crouching poses. So I'm going to get a whole squad of 10 guys crouching and kneeling.
Okay, cool.
That sort of stuff, yeah. No prone. I really hate prone figures. I personally really don't. I don't like them.
I don't know. So I'm looking, and from Zombie Smith, they have a line. It's World War I-ish, but it's anteaters. So it's anthropomorphic anteaters, or that's the race. It's called a Quor.
Yeah,
and
they're awesome.
They are. I love them. But yeah. I have this one who's a sniper that's prone, and I put him on like an oval cavalry base, so he fits across it, He's got a stump in front of him. He's got weeds growing up all around. So there's so much more you can do. That whole terrain thing. Yes, his base is finished, and I haven't even primed the guy yet.
Right, and as a separate pack for a sniper with a prone with a spotter, I have no problem with that. I just don't like if I buy a pack of 10 figures that are supposed to be a squad. I don't want 9 guys running and 1 guy laying down. Like, what the hell am I supposed to do?
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. No, I do agree with that. It drives me nuts when, you have a squad that's like half, I think I'm going to kneel, and the other half's like, I'm running for my life.
That's right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But
you are idiots.
But there's a lot of gamers that want kneeling and are crouching figures. So, I'll get them done.
I could totally see it if you are making like a dedicated, like 2-man sniper team.
Yes.
Where they're going to sit on the same base.
Mm-hmm.
Or even if it's like a 40 mil, or maybe you might have to bump it to a 50, but depending on how it goes, like a 40 or 50 mil base where it's like you've got, the one crouching doing the spotting and the other one that's, completely prone, manning the rifle.
Yeah, you could get them on a 40 mil. Actually, I know you can, because I did that with some of the Empress ones that I have for the Australians or the PLA, one of the two.
Oh, okay.
And then there's another one. I kind of love the pose. They've got like an anti-tank weapon, and the dude's like sitting like cross-legged on the ground with this anti-tank weapon. I'm just like, seems like such a random pose for, getting ready to shoot it, but it looks kind of funny. Yeah. Like, I am about to ruin your day, and I'm just chilling over here.
I'm playing Duck Duck Goose. Right. Yeah, that's so I guess the other question with that is, if the guy's just sitting cross-legged on the ground with this anti-tank weapon, is there going to be someone kneeling behind him holding onto his shoulders?
That's right, exactly. In the back.
I mean, that was kind of what I was wondering. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you're going to fall over like that. But hey.
Well, yeah, you do that and you immediately hide your position because you're prone in the grass.
Maybe. You toss the gun and lay back, and you're just like, nope, I didn't just shoot you.
That's amazing. Awesome. So, Tim, so I know that you've got stuff that you're working on. You got some stuff close to the chest. Is there anything over the top or crazy that you've had on your docket for a while that you've been wanting to do, even if it's not modern military? Because we all have those crazy notebooks, and I know you have one too.
I mean, he's already come out with an Osprey as well. Not just a little bird, but an Osprey.
And an Osprey, that's a big kit to print out. I would love to be able to produce that in resin. I would love actually to speak to people like Edward at Rubicon and see if he could make it as a kit for me in plastic injection. That would be really cool.
Oh, that would be.
So one of my stuff that I would really love to do, that I've been asked over and over to do, French Indian War.
Really?
That's not over the top, but I just love
it. It's definitely a break from modern, though.
Oh, my God. Yeah, no multicam there, thank God. So I would go to that. I like the executive outcomes guys. So those were the South African mercenaries. But that's, more modern. But really, I'd like to do, well, there's a couple samurai figures too.
The more you're talking about, it's like it just keeps going and going.
Yeah, I know. That's why you just unlock. You opened up a drawer that just should be closed right now.
No, we're doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, samurai.
Samurai.
Did you say samurai? I may or may not have a desk full of samurai as well.
Well, you know what? I got to tell you something. Andy Hovde is he is a wonderful man. He has helped me out a lot, and he's given me a lot of support. And he understands a lot of things that I've gone through, and he's has always been there. So I definitely, any type of support that you guys could give him and his company, Footsore, and I mean, just he's a great guy. It'd be nice to have more of them out there.
I've at least paid 6 months of their bills. But no, I love Footsore. I love their stuff and everything they've come out with. And I did buy Warring Clans when they announced it.
Cool. But yeah, I can't think of anything else off the top. I love Burma, but Warlord, they had a great sculptor to do Chindits, British Chindits, and from World War II. They're great figures. I can't think of anything else. That's the thing about having your own miniature company now, is that I can produce the stuff that I like, that I want to produce. And one of the biggest things on my list was getting really, really good Spetsnaz and the SOCR boat. So I gotta think of what else I want to do.
My only request is modern Gurkhas, because nothing says holy shit like a small man running at you with a large knife. When he's got a gun. When he's got a gun.
Well, so let's talk about that. My heart is in the British military. As a kid, I would love the British military, love SAS, SPS stuff, and I am doing modern urban SAS. It has been done already, but I'm doing it, so it's going to be cool. As well, to add to that, I spent a lot of time in Aldershot before Iraq, and I spent a lot of time with the Gurkhas. There were Gurkhas units over there. So I definitely want to do Gurkhas. It's just how to represent them the best and get them proper scale. And yeah.
One head shorter, which everyone's going to be like, hey, your miniatures are small.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, you don't understand.
Right. Yeah, why are these 25 millimeter and everything else is 28 heroic?
Yeah.
No, those are 28 heroic.
Yes, right, exactly.
Because really, the only thing you got to do is you got to have like 2 Gurkhas in a unit that still have their assault rifles, but they've got that Gurkha out.
That's right.
that right there says it all. Then everybody's like,
Yep.
These guys, don't mess with them.
Well, there were Gurkhas in Iraq. There are contractors still, I believe, in Afghanistan and possibly in Iraq still. So they're out there. So why not do them?
Yeah, exactly. So just me personally, coming from a martial arts background, like I've always liked the idea of the Gurkha, just because they're like, okay, yeah, we come from a very much like a strong lineage of knife fighters. And just because we have this thing that's a boomstick, it doesn't matter. This is what gets the job done.
Right. Yep.
And then, of course, people see them running at them with these things. They go, holy shit, I can't do anything about this. I guess shoot, and then if they don't die, well, then something's going to go wrong. But yeah, that's always been one of the, like, even just reading about them, I was like, yeah, these are like crazy little mountain men with large knives. So yeah, that's definitely something I want to see. Have you put any thought into some of the other Asian units, like Filipino military or anything like that?
Well, I've been looking at the Filipino military as well as the Filipino Islamists.
Okay.
And, how to make those guys look different than, say, my ISIS figures. And, but yes, that's definitely been looking at that stuff.
Cool. Awesome. Well, so Tim, where exactly can everybody who's listening to this episode find your stuff?
Well, let's see. My store, before I am going to be rebranding, but right now, currently my store is www.kingshobbiesandgames.com. And then I have a whole link there to all the stuff that I produce. But I also have a Facebook group, Special Artisan Service Miniatures, and you can find me there. And also on Facebook, my name's Tim Spakowski, so you can always message me and be more than happy to help you.
Awesome. So, Nick, is there anything else you want to throw in here before we wrap this bad boy up?
A 28 millimeter semi with a T-55 turret on the back of it.
So that was an inspiration from a picture that I saw. And a U.S. gamer had asked me if I could do it, and I did. That's something that I definitely would like to print digitally, resin, and then you actually get it resin casted. That's a big kit. I still don't know how they fire that thing. The stabilizers on that. I don't know if when one shot the whole thing tips over.
I don't know, but I love it. I loved it when I saw it. I mean, like months ago, like they announced Gaslands and I saw it. And then like I actually saw the book for Gaslands and I saw it and I'm like, I needed to shrink down because I just so want to put this in a Gaslands game and run around.
Well, you know what? I can definitely do that if you want. Because so Gaslands, those Matchbox cars?
Yeah.
I forget what size those are.
1/64th?
1/64th?
Yeah.
That's definitely doable. I didn't even think about that for Gaslands. I also have an armored semi. But I don't have it on the site yet. So
as I'm looking at the site, going, oh yeah, there's
the
this
frantic
one,
clicking,
and there's this one. Wait, there's an armored semi too. What? But I mean, I just like there's all these technicals up towards the top and all that, and they're all kind of cool, and there's all these other cool vehicles, and then you scroll through and you're like, oh, there's the little bird. That's really cool. And then you're like, what the heck? That is awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
I like making cool looking things, and so that's what's fun about it.
Awesome. Well, that is going to wrap up this episode of Skirmish Supremacy. We will see you next time. Thanks for listening to another episode of Skirmish Supremacy. To see more of the antics that Nick and I do, you can check us out on Facebook at Skirmish Supremacy. We also have Twitter, which we can be reached at Skirmish Supreme, because apparently Skirmish Supremacy does not fit in Twitter. And if you want to email us directly, you can reach us at tim@skirmishsupremacy.com or nick@skirmishsupremacy.com. Thanks for listening.